morning from beautiful Brisbane, Australia, and welcome to Healing from Complex PTSD. Hello to everybody that's been commenting and appreciating the videos. It's good to see that you're getting information that really matters and helps your brain recover from complex PTSD. And for those who are new here, welcome. My name's Linda. I'm a clinical complex trauma professional, and I've lived and walked and breathed this journey myself, having lost brain capacity twice now, and for different reasons. But the first time was definitely due to undiagnosed complex PTSD. So when we grow up in trauma, our brain, our body, our soul and spirit take on survival beliefs that feel like absolute truth to us. And they actually run silently in the background, and they often stop us from moving forward in recovery. And especially because the brain has taken them on in survival mode, until we actually begin reflecting and knowing where to look, we don't know that they're running. That's half the battle with all the brain stuff, is we don't know what's happening at the unconscious level until we begin to identify things. So for me, it was always looking at a list and then reflecting what was happening for me emotionally each day. I did tons and tons of journaling over many years so that I got to know what was happening within myself. And then the core beliefs came up when I was looking to begin to step into different areas of life where I wanted to be able to succeed. So that can even be as a parent. Why can't I change this up as a parent? Why can't I get this behavior happening instead of old ways? I mean, we all just think before we became parents, definitely for me and a lot of people I talked to, our goals were definitely that we wanted to never raise our kids like we were raised. So then part of that is looking at our core beliefs. It's interesting when we begin to recognize what's happening at an unconscious level. And this is why this work is so hard as well. I was explaining to a client today that our survival brain makes it harder too, because anytime we go to do something new, which recovery is new to the brain goes into this whole shutdown mode, avoid mode, don't want to be there mode, not doing this. It's like we get scared out of our wits that we're not going to be able to manage what's coming. And that's when we're in our survival brain. It's like, nope, not happening, not going there. And it makes it hard to show up for recovery until we know that the brain is driving it. And then we can begin to go, well, I understand that this is what's happening, that the brain is driving how I'm feeling and wanting to not go into a space of learning new things. And our biggest word in CPtsd recovery is and. And I'm also going to work through ways that I can make it happen for me. So here are the top 5 most common old beliefs and the signs that show up in our daily life. So the brain can be running in survival mode, a loop of, I know, but I can't do it, okay? Thoughts will be circling around and around, okay? And they keep repeating the same old fear story. I know for my youngest son, the brain runs the fear story of he's going to fail. And there's other beliefs happening as well, but that's a really big prime thing for him, is that I am going to fail. Now, today, he recognized that was happening, and even though he hadn't slept last night because of survival brain running the show, he knew that if he went to work, that he was going to take one more step closer to being able to change that narrative that survival brain is running, because our brain is so powerful, okay? But it's only in our experiences that it begins to actually experience that we're going to change things up, okay? So when it's running that loop, we want to notice definitely this is survival brain running the narration. And what we can say to ourselves, is this the childhood developmental trauma speaking, or is it actually me, the adult? And normally we find that me, the adult, wants to get out there and reach our full potential, okay? Our body goes into silence before speaking. So we may find that we can feel a tight chest. We may find hesitation or freezing or fawning, like really shutting down. You can even be angry about the thought of having to go out and do something different. But again, that comes back to, is this my trauma speaking? And this can happen when we need to ask for help, okay? So what we want to notice are the micro pauses or old imprints. Even saying one sentence aloud to ourselves begins the unlearning. So even in one moment where we can say, I know that my husband, spouse, partner, child, teenager wants to talk to me, but every time they do, I shut down, okay? So then we want to go and actually, first of all, if you can't verbalize it, write it down. Every time they want to speak to me, I shut down, and it doesn't make sense because I'm an adult and I should be able to speak, okay? So then when you've written it down, notice if you can stand in front of a mirror and say it out loud, okay? Now, this might sound incredibly crazy because we're adults, we should be able to speak. But the reality is the impact of complex trauma on our brain and the experiences we had in childhood, or the lack of experiences that we had in childhood of speaking up, mean that we have to go through this step-by-step process in order that our whole system begins to feel safe enough to speak up, okay? Now, at a soul level, shame can be the default lens, okay? So we may feel guilty when we start to feel better, or we may hear the inner critic say, I don't deserve this. Now, what we want to notice is that that's inherited shame. And we want to counter it with, I am allowed to heal. Okay? There's no use going and pulling the whole shame apart, because then we're going to spend time pulling it apart instead of recognizing that it's the brain driving it and we need to counteract it. Okay? It's in the counteracting that we begin to build new ways, new systems, new neural pathways, okay? But not only that, we give our body new experiences. We give our sensory system new experiences, every system new experiences, okay? And we have to do that on repeat. In our spirit, longing hidden by withdrawal. So we may feel that we really want connection. We don't want to isolate. Now, this can be hard to recognize, by the way, because sometimes we can say, oh, I'm just too tired. I can't do that. But we have to ask ourselves the question, what is happening here? Because we do need connection. It's wired into us that we need connection. Our brain thrives, not our survival brain, but our normal healthy brain thrives with good, healthy interactions, okay? But it's hard because when we're in survival brain, it says, no, shut down, delete people off my social media, don't want to know, don't want to see them, don't want to hear their stuff. And I'm not going out, I'm not engaging, I'm not going to do new things. So deep within ourselves, even though the longing can be there, what we actually find is that when we look over a specific period of time, just say anywhere from 3 months to a year, we begin to see that we've been withdrawing from people more and more, increasingly. So we have to be willing to ask ourselves, is this trauma brain driving this? But I, as an adult, really want to have connection with other people. Now, as somebody that this has happened to, the withdrawing, and didn't even realize, it's very hard to recognize, okay? Because we're still going about our day doing normal things in our day-to-day life. So we have to genuinely be very careful that we don't dismiss ourselves, that we don't dismiss what we're missing, okay? And that we don't say, oh, people are too much trouble. There are healthy people in the world. There are people doing their work. There are those that we can genuinely connect with. And if you've withdrawn this much, you can go into our peer support Facebook group, because in there's people who genuinely connect and genuinely care, because it's run by trauma-trained admin and assistants, okay? So you're safe to at least speak up and start connecting. With our identity, we have a belief, and I've yet to meet anyone who doesn't, because we're incredibly human. We have a belief that healing should be fast. We can see it in our frustration, we can see it in self-blame, or thinking I'm failing at recovery, or it's not happening, or I'm not doing enough, or why can't this happen? This should be overnight. It's vital we remember that what happened to our brain and the impact on our brain didn't happen overnight. It didn't happen with one incident. It happened over time, and it takes time to recognize what's happening internally, to recognize these core beliefs, and to be able to begin to say, what is my one next step? Okay? No more blame. Okay? And we want to identify it as a survival pattern or a perfectionist pattern. I've got to get it right. Okay? You don't. It's life. We're going through an experience. And we want to reframe it into healing happens step by step, not all at once. Okay? And I can guarantee you, A, every one step counts, and B, it does happen. Healing does happen. I was talking to a client today, and they've been going through a process of identifying what's happening internally for them, medically as well, for many, many years. And they finally got the results that they needed. And with what they're beginning to change up, because it's been decades without the diagnosis, okay, and it was to do with their thyroid, it was something very, very different. When they started to take the medication, they were able to do more. Like, they've exercised 2 days in a row, whereas last year we were having a conversation about how they can take one step to help the trauma brain begin to allow them to get up and exercise, like retraining the trauma brain, survival mode. And I said to them, did you hear what you just said? I said, last year we were having a conversation about steps to put into place in order that you can begin to exercise, and you've just told me you exercise 2 days in a row and you're tired. I said, this is normal, okay? Our brain can cope with changes a little bit at a time, but then it needs rest, okay? I'm in the process of changing how my internal system operates at a physical level because of the brain shutting down, okay? Now, it's not easy. The first time I did it, I was sick for half a day. So every time we're making a change, it is progress, even though we don't initially perceive it as progress. Okay? Remember to like and subscribe, share away. People need to know that it is not their fault. It is not because they're not trying. It's because we need to do it from a brain-focused way. All right? Thanks for joining in. Let me know where you're from, what country, etc., so that we can cheer each other along and know that we're not doing this alone. We're in this together. Okay, bye for now.